Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CA Overwatch. We have a very special guest with us today. We thought since the Toronto Defiant were playing the Vancouver Titans on, we'd bring Chris, Lyteforce from the Readysetpwn podcast. For those of you who don't know, Chris actually came on the show in the summer, back when times were a little bit simpler, back when homestands was still a thing, back when we were very optimistic about the Defiant, and most importantly, we actually on this show predicted that Fisher would lead the Vancouver Titans to the promised land and maybe take the victory back from the shock. Since then, things have happened both on the Vancouver side as well as the homestand side. But again, Chris, thank you for coming to the show. If people missed our last episode, Chris, why don't you give a quick little explanation as to who you are, what you do, and why it's so important that you are on this show talking about the Vancouver Titans.
Sure. So as you already introduced, I'm Chris at Lyteforce. I am the host of the Readysetpwn podcast, the premier source for everything to do with the Vancouver Titans, and the podcast with the catchphrase, simply because we main Reinhardt. If you want to find us, it's readysetpwn.com. But we talk about everything there is to do about the Vancouver Titans throughout really good times and throughout times that aren't really that good.
Yeah, I mean, again, I would consider
it's been a rough spell.
Yeah, the number one spot to go for your Vancouver Titans news, Readysetpwn. So again, we'll put all that information in the link in the description below if you're interested. Follow him on Twitter, give him some love. Thanks again for coming on. So, I mean, I can't have the number one spot for the Vancouver Titans news without at least asking you. Obviously, it's no secret, the elephant in the room that is what happened with the Vancouver Titans. This was a team that brought the shock. Well, I mean, the finals wasn't good, but they played the shock in the finals, right? Which in itself was very impressive. One of, if not the best team last year. Coming into this year, had a lot of high hopes for a lot of people, some less so, but I was one of the people who was drinking that juice. And everything just sort of overnight, it seemed, just imploded, if I can think of a better word. So Chris, why don't you just give in your opinion on like what happened, and then sort of just like what were your thoughts on that whole situation?
Well, I mean, functionally speaking, the previous roster and the Vancouver Titans organization went through a divorce. We're not going to go and speculate as to the reasons that were behind the divorce, but the players had a position, the organization had a position, and that those two positions were going the opposite direction. The Vancouver Titans going into this season had this plan where they were going to, revolutionize the approach to esports. They partnered with the Domus Esports company. It's based in the Fortius Center here out in Vancouver. And this is like the Fortius Center is actually where the Toronto Raptors have held training camps in the past. Like we're talking high performance sports facility, and the Domus component is the esports side. The difficulty is that we then had a pandemic, and the facility was not, I think, ever intended to replace that team house experience that esports players are so expectant of. Yeah. And quite frankly, I mean, as much as the facilities are top notch, they're not to the level that people expect. Like, I mean, think about it. The Vancouver Titans last year were in some palatial home in like the west side of LA with epic views, an awesome pool, an elevator. And the only similarity to the building that they were in here in Vancouver was it had an elevator too, but it was more commercial property, right? So you had that, and then you had the players themselves ultimately decide to force the issue and pull the plug. I mean, I think it was quite indicative that the relationship was over the moment the players started dropping all references to the Vancouver Titans from social, from Titans Cord. Like, if there was any way to fix the strain in the relationship, the players ultimately, tossed a match on what was already a whole lot of gasoline that's quite frankly been set up by the organization. That's the thing, is that organizationally there's been a lot of problems. And the difficulty is the success that the Vancouver Titans had last year, I think, sort of hid those problems under the rug.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I think the general consensus has been sort of just like blame the organization. And then everything I've heard is only reminiscent of what you're saying. And it's that, like, don't get me wrong, the organization, there is a lot of blame there, and they deserve the blame that they're getting. But it's not like the players are, these angels in the situation, that it was, like you said, a two-sided sort of disagreement that led to the separation.
And I just want to make clear, like the removal of their identity and relationship with the Vancouver Titans and social media and whatnot, that was sort of the final straw. But there are other things that likely happened that the players may have been responsible for, that made things more difficult, did not make things easier. And so ultimately, as in any divorce, there's an assignment of fault, but no party comes out without egg on their face.
Yeah, exactly. Sure. And it definitely takes two to tango. And I just wanted to drop back to something you quickly said. You said that the Vancouver Titans organization, they were looking to revolutionize esports and e-gaming. For anybody who probably doesn't read up a lot on what they're actually doing, what does that mean to you? What are some of the details, if you can expand on that?
Well, we had a chance to sit down with Alfred De Vera earlier in the season, before any of, obviously, the current events had taken place, pandemic, fracture, the roster, what have you. And one of the things that he had said is they were looking to try to do things differently, in a manner that allowed the Vancouver Titans as an organization to sort of set a higher standard, a higher bar. And the partnership with the Damas Esports was part of that sort of puzzle.
Okay.
I mean, we look back to last year. The Vancouver Titans lost to the San Francisco Shock. So how did they become better? Well, one of the ways that they become better is with player personnel that, better, fit their needs. And we sort of talked about that in the summer.
Fisher.
But then exactly. The other thing is looking at ways to improve your organization beyond simply the personnel that you have. It's looking for the competitive edge.
Yeah.
I mean, we look at the traditional sports space. I mean, every professional team does something a little bit different or a little bit better that they feel than the other team. And we've seen analytics take hold to a significant degree in traditional sports. We've seen technology at play. Like, I mean, I'll use professional soccer players, footballers. Many of them are actually wearing devices that are not only taking biometric data, it's tracking the distance to which they're actually traveling in game, and then they're comparing that data over and over and over. Like, there's all these different things. Well, the Vancouver Titans were trying to take a lot of that in the science and in turn help them become more competitive. And at the same time, I mean, one of the things they were really trying to leverage was that we're only going to make you phenomenal, players when it comes to the game of Overwatch, but esports in general.
Yeah,
we're going to provide you life skills that set you up for so much success beyond your how much ever time in the lights that you have. And that was, I think, what they thought as being the differentiator over the long term. Like, I want to play for the Titans not only because they're successful, but because they provide us as players all of this wonderful stuff.
And actually, I wanted to touch on that really quickly, because I think it's actually quite important that you do that, because we all know that longevity in esports is, I feel like it's a little bit of a problem right now. And also, when you do have things like team houses, it really isn't simulating real life. So, if you're a player, you do want to last in the league for a long time, and hopefully the league does last for a long time. You're not going to be able to be in a team house for 4 or 5 years. You're going to get a girlfriend, you're going to move in with her. It's got to get a little
life moves
towards
on,
normal longevity things. So that actually sounds like it was a positive direction for Vancouver.
Well, and I mean, despite all of these best laid plans, everything got, flipped upside down. The pandemic functionally was the spark that lit the fuse. But the actual tension and trouble, that's been something that's existed since last season. And unfortunately, everything came to head, and now suddenly former Vancouver Titans are now members of the Washington Justice, the San Francisco Shock, the Seoul Dynasty, possibly the New York Excelsior at some point.
We'll see.
It's where we think Hawksall will wind up. But again,
for me, it's so I was gonna say the Gladiators. I think fits for me. The Hawksall should have went to the Spark of the Gladiators, but it seems like the Spark, since they got Architect, that won't happen. But I always thought, as much as I like Jaru and oh my god, I can't think of who are the other, like Mira or something like that. Hawksall looked really good on them. But sorry, continue.
No, and I mean reality is that now we have something entirely different. And the one counterpoint that anyone that might be listening to this are like, well, wait a minute, Chris, like, I know they didn't have a translator. They admitted this in that Sportsnet article that maybe they needed to hire someone. Yeah, they totally did. Funny story, when we actually went and interviewed the players, and I had asked the question, myself, Sam, and Ani, none of us speak Korean. So do the players speak English? Not well. Do you know of someone? So here we are, the closest thing to sort of, mainstream media, and we essentially had to bring our own translator. And so
that's crazy.
Wow.
Sungwon Jim, who many within the scene might know, he came along with us.
Yeah.
And even, despite him translating for us, and even the organization hiring him on sort of a contract basis from time to time, it still took until the middle of last year before they brought June on board as a translator. So the failure to communicate was probably occurring from like day one.
Yeah.
And no matter what you want to do, I think in any organization, you need to be able to talk to your players. I mean, look at traditional sports. Hockey is a great example. I think in hockey, there's a reliance on some of the older players to then sort of do the translation.
Yeah.
But
for sure,
these teams have people that can speak the language to ensure that they can actually communicate to the players, whether it's the coach to the player, whether it's general manager to the player, whether it's whomever in the organization, the training staff. So,
yeah.
Again.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of those things where, like you said, it's such a unique situation, and there is both parties to blame. And it's really unfortunate because I remember we spoke about the Vancouver Titans and that possibility. And I think that's one of those things that is missing in esports, is this sort of like, what do players do after the Overwatch League or their Overwatch League career ends, right? Because we know that the average lifespan of an Overwatch League player is like 1 or 2 years, right? It's not like it's the NFL. And the NFL is actually a bad example. It's not like it's the NHL where some players will play until they're like their late 30s. Obviously, it's not as established. So like, it is a really important skill set to have. I really enjoyed taking that that player wellness really into consideration when they were going about it. So it's really unfortunate that not only did the pandemic sort of put a strain on things, but also, like you said, there's communication and all that was on top of it. So, so the breakup happens.
It did.
Like you said, players. Imagine going from the Vancouver Titans in season 2 to the Washington Justice, but that's a whole other conversation. Breakup happens, and you guys pick up the second win roster, or at the very least the core. I know some players didn't transfer over. There's reasons behind that. We don't have to get into that. So what are your sort of thoughts on that? Like the Vancouver Titans, they come out there to say, hey, we're going full Western roster. We're bringing a tier 2 team into the Overwatch League. I know there's been a lot of like tier 2 fans for a while who are sort of looking forward to that. Maybe not under these circumstances, but at the very least they're seeing play time. What are your thoughts on this roster? And then maybe you can segue into the next question, is how do they beat Defiant? But first, let's just go. What are your thoughts on this roster and sort of like what they did with that?
Well, I mean, we look at the Vancouver Titans did in acquiring the roster they have today, and again, a good portion of second win, as well as a few others to supplement.
EU contenders and whatnot. Yeah.
The thought is, and this is just sort of something I've been seeing, within the scene, within social, on the different Discords I'm part of, is be like, the Vancouver Titans should have gotten this roster, like the former Envy roster, or why didn't they pick up like third Impact? Like if they're going to go and just take cookie cutter, boom, boom. Why didn't they do that? Well, one, not all the contenders rosters have enough players that meet the age requirement the Overwatch League requires. So that creates its own idiosyncrasy. On top of that, and this really ties into a comment that was on Reddit from, I can't remember who it was, from the Washington Justice, but they outlined a number of different points as to why it's not just easy to go and just pick player A if you want them, is that the players themselves may have unrealistic demands. It could be that it's not the player that has unrealistic demands, it's actually the organization to which they currently belong to does. And like when you do the math, it just doesn't add up to be, the correct approach. So like, Team Doja, the essentially formerly Envy.
Former Envy, yep.
Yeah, I mean, the cost to acquire that roster may have been so significant that when you do the math, it doesn't add up to where you want it to be.
Yeah.
So what do we now see? Well, we see the roster that we have today. I also believe that one of the things that the Vancouver Titans were doing is they were looking for a means to establish a story to market themselves. I mean, they realized that things are not in a good place out here. I mean, we are, as we market ourselves, the premier source for everything to do with the Vancouver Titans. And if anyone follows Readysetpwn, we get angry with the organization
Yep.
on a regular basis.
You're talking. We do the same thing, but hey, you're talking to Defiant fans here. We understand that.
Like, and we like, I have these things that I call TED Talks. Essentially, it's instead of using Twit longer, I learned that the maximum number of tweets you can string together in a tweet storm is 25. Why? Because that's how many I actually use. And when that occurs, we actually, for one reason or another, see action.
Yeah.
So for us, we've pointed out that there are a lot of these problems. They need to embrace their community. They need to provide a plan. And I think the acquisition of Second Wind has more to do with the staffing side than really the player side. And I'm not trying to discount the players they've picked up.
Point.
I actually think they're now looking for people that can actually help them for next year, presuming there's a next year.
Not gonna win.
So, you know, like I mean, Justin is a great example. I mean, he is now listed as, well, he was the assistant manager of operations, although his title on like socials is assistant general manager.
Yeah.
But I mean, outside of Anthony Morocco had they previously, who was not from the Overwatch scene whatsoever.
Yeah.
They now have someone who knows Overwatch.
Yeah.
In that role, right? So I think that's where we're seeing is this is a team that's realized we need people that actually know the game.
Yeah.
To manage it for us. So the roster itself. Oh, sorry.
No, I was gonna say it was funny because I did this like little debate show on the side, and we sort of debated like what are the heights that the Vancouver Titans roster, the new roster, can reach, and I sort of took the position of potentially that like they can sort of climb their way out of the bottom 5. And one of the reasons I cited for was their coaching staff. Like whenever I've talked to somebody who knows anything about Overwatch and Tier 2 and that, I've heard nothing but positive things about the Second Wind's coaching staff. So I do agree with you that is a very important pickup.
And that's where I think the organization identified a need, and that was one of the areas they wanted to execute on. The other was we need a roster that's going to get us through at the end of the season.
Yeah.
I mean that was also required. And that's ultimately what we now have. I mean, there are a number of strange things about it. One, we got 2 players playing on ping for the foreseeable future. You know, KSA's in Saudi Arabia, as soon as in France.
Yeah.
Neither one is likely going to be coming over to North America anytime soon. I mean, logistically, maybe they could make the United States work.
Yeah.
Presuming, I think KSA can come, but I think Suna would require a visa.
But they also need a 7th person, correct? I thought they only got.
Yeah, they need a 7 because they're currently playing under an exception from the league to have just a 6-man roster.
Yeah.
But on that note, I mean, if we were to ask anyone over here in sort of Titans land, what is it the Titans need? Flex DPS. And that's, you know, right now you've got Dalton and Suna that have an equivalent hero pool.
Yeah.
And neither one of them is really that flex DPS player. And we've seen problems with that.
Yeah. So just on those rosters in general, is there anybody on the player side of the roster for you that stands out?
Well, so I mean, in the earlier matches, the 2 matches they played the first weekend, Dalton looked like he belongs in the Overwatch league. The difficulty is that when we saw Tracer get taken out and him put onto Echo, he wasn't as effective as Echo. And the struggle I have is was that because that's a hero that he's not really comfortable with, or is that Sam and I were chatting to another Sam Chan and one of my co-spheres at Pwn.
Yeah, he was on
also the one who doesn't like Toronto.
The one who we haven't had the pleasure, I'll say, of speaking to.
He and I were chatting on this, and we had actually come to the belief that is it possible that this past weekend when Dalton looked so good, was he trying to then put this team on his shoulders and do much? Like he was freelancing a fair amount. And the problem is he was often then the first pick and playing against a team like the Fusion. As soon as they got that 6v5, out comes the steamroller, and it's time to reset. So I think there's value there with Dalton. KSA has looked good. The difficulty is he's handcuffed by ping.
Yeah.
And functionally, the Titans support line in Rolf and Karkar haven't found a means to support their front line and Shredlock and KSA. And I kind of lean towards it being more of an issue with support. Although Shredlock, it's one of 2 sides of a coin. There are some who say he's a feeder, others who say that the Titans support can't manage his aggressive play and enable him.
There's So I continue.
And that sort of, I was going to say that just sort of leaves where Suna fits in. And here's another guy on ping playing off roll. And the difficulty, and again, these are 6 disparate players who aren't sitting together in one room, who only a handful of them played together and are still trying to figure each other out. So all of them thrown in the mix, and suddenly you've got what we have in Vancouver right now, which is a roster who I think is trying. It's just they have zero confidence right now.
Yeah, I think for me, one of the things was I like Shredlock. He's like you said, he's a Canadian kid. He's from BC. He's young, so he might be over aggressive now, but you always have the potential that he can learn and grow with the organization. I actually liked Karkar from what I've seen. I think Karkar is actually not bad. Tasuna playing off roll on ping is rough. That's not ideal. Dalton, from what I've heard, and even before the league, he was sort of like the star, if you will, of this team, right? I've heard nothing but good things about Dalton. I think for the most part, he does deserve to be there. Dalton on Echo is always interesting. As a Defiant fan, we hear a lot about, well, let's see Surefour on the Echo. Let's see Surefour on the Echo. And it's like, Surefour's a little bit different because he's such a jack-of-all-trades player. The point I'm trying to make is that Echo isn't a hit-scan DPS role, right? There's a reason why I personally want to see Agilities play Echo. It does sort of suit that like Pharah, Genji-ish sort of style, where it's very much more like mobility-based. Like, it's not clicking heads, right? So if you have Dalton who likes to play Tracer, Ashe, Widowmaker, heroes like that. Echo really doesn't seem like it's this natural transition. It's the same reason why Prophet isn't exactly letting the league on fire in terms of his Echo play. It's a really unique hero. So I don't think this is one of those heroes that like you typically see just like standard hit scan people or other like well-known DPS players pick up. I think it does require a very unique skill set. So I do think the Vancouver Titans definitely need it. I actually do like Karkar though. I'll defend him a little bit from what I've saw. He was okay, but it is tough, especially when people are playing on ping and you have people who are playing on off rolls. That it's not necessarily an ideal situation. So it's one of those things that I really thought they were going to beat the Washington Justice day one. I was really hoping for it, and it didn't happen. And
so if you look at that VOD, the Vancouver Titans started that match against the Justice with almost like a chip on their shoulder and an edge. Yeah. And in every coordinated team fight, they won it. Where the Titans struggled was the extended team fight, or when the Justice were able to then reset. Yeah. And then once the Justice got those 2 wins, I think that's when the Titans themselves sort of started to mentally get boomed. Yeah. And that sort of knocked them off their game. And then, we saw that trickle into the Florida Mayhem, where I thought the Titans didn't look too bad, but were making some ill-advised decisions, like trying to extend it a fight simply for stagger, but investing ultimates into it. Yeah. Like, there was one, I think it was against the Mayhem on Ilios Well, where the Vancouver Titans just trying to stagger. That's all it was. They already had 99. They invested 2 ults into a fight they were not going to win. Yeah. And in doing so, it actually fed the Mayhem to buffet their ult economy, but then that stagger delayed the Vancouver Titans next fight. And what do you have? You have lost. It's those sort of mistakes that are coachable. I think they can be remedied, but we're seeing them happen more and more frequently. And then this past weekend was.
It's got to be. I was gonna say, what was your reaction when you saw Philadelphia Fusion field Chipsa on map 1 and then went 2 straight? Like, what a. I mean, talking about throwing salt on the wound, right? Like,
the Vancouver, like, there are people who are like are of 2 camps. There are those who live it. That's total BM. Like, they should not be doing it. But like, at the end of the day, the Overwatch League is about entertainment. Absolutely. And I have absolutely no problem with the Fusion bringing Chipsa in. He's on the roster for a reason. Yeah. Hey, he looked okay. Reason might be.
He looked okay. He looked okay.
But no, actually, I as I said this yesterday, the Vancouver Titans didn't have an answer for him. He was in that back line. Like, Karkar was on Brigitte to counter Chipsa, and for whatever reason, Karkar could not stun Chipsa.
Everyone chirps Chipsa, but forgets that at one point in time when Doomfist was mentioned, he was a rank 1 player. Like, he at one point, and don't get me wrong, there's better Doomfist, right? I'm not Mr. Chips is going to take the lead by storm. I get the whole meme, but he's got talent, right? Like, let's give the man some credit. He's got talent.
Well, he's entertaining. And that's the thing, like, and that's like for me. Okay, if you're he's going to come in the game. You respect that that's his. I mean, one trick, but Karkar on Brigitte who was the answer to Chipsa on Doomfist, wasn't up for the challenge for one reason or another. And that was the difference. You know, you take that, if you can take Chipsa's effectiveness out of that fight, that actually would have changed the approach that the Fusion had when they were diving on the Titans. And I think the Titans, like you look at the first few fights, the Titans were actually, once they sort of, you know, got themselves steadied, they owned the point and they were owning team fights. But where they started to fail was when they couldn't deal with the dive. Some of it was Chipsa, but then the other part that I still don't understand to this time, the Titans don't seem to want to change or adapt what they come out of spawn with once they see what the opposition is running. Like they almost seem so committed to whatever the game plan is that come hell or high water, they're going to stick through it.
Yeah, and it's tough because it's sort of like, I mean, people can say, well, it's lack of preparation, it's lack of Overwatch League experience, but at the end of the day, they're playing Tier 2, right? This isn't something that's new to Overwatch. The scouting what your opponent's doing and then building a strategy to deal with that is fairly standard in terms of what you would consider like a professional level.
But even from a scouting perspective, if you expect the, let's say, and I'll use the Fusion as an example, you expect the Fusion to come out with dive.
Yep.
Right? And let's say they don't come out with that. Let's say they came out, and I don't think they did, but let's say they came out with double shield. Are you going to go and then decide, oh, well, we expected dive. That wasn't what we're getting here. Oh, my goodness.
Like and just play your strategy.
Yeah, like you adapt. You're like, okay, this wasn't what we expected. We still have time. Let's start to make those changes. There was a moment on Busan this weekend. Gosh, who was it? I can't remember who it was. Switched from Widow to McCree. And why? Because it was quite clear that the Vancouver Titans were going to be able to dive onto a Widow. And the moment that minor change occurs, and it's just one switch, the Titans had no answer. McCree was not dealt with.
Well, it's kind of weird because I mean, I feel like I kind of see some of these same issues with Toronto too.
Sometimes
there's been a ton of times where I'm like, why are you changing Toronto? And there's a couple of times when we were facing LA where they did things like blow 6 ults in one team fight to lose it.
I think I replied to that with the.
At least we had 6 ults, But the problem was, it doesn't, like, oh my god, not only was it blowing 6 ults, we also got first pick. It was a 6v5 and then all 6 ults were gone. Everyone was like, well, hey, it was a pretty good hold. And I was like, yeah, I mean, you can take that perspective that it was a pretty good hold because they had 5 minutes and 30 seconds to deal with. But, like, they very well could have snowballed that to a defense. And had they gotten that, we wouldn't have lost 3-2 to a team that was filled with contenders players who could have been on the Toronto Defiant. But that's a different conversation for a different day.
But to reinforce my point, like, against the Valiant, the Defiant, when they went dive, it was like an entirely different Toronto team.
Because Dive's our team. Because Dive's what people have always known that we're good on. So why did it take us so long to play Dive in the first place? I'm not entirely sure. Chris actually.
At least you made the switch.
Yeah, but Chris was the first one to really point out that I think that a lot of people just assumed that Beast's Monkey was superior to his Reinhardt. And Chris early on was actually like, I actually kind of prefer his Reinhardt. And there's definitely moments in time where I think there's definitely some legitimacy to that claim. People like, because we were so good at dive versus the Philadelphia Fusion, teams just assumed we were a really good dive team. And then I think they kind of held that narrative in their head, even though we had ran dive a couple times after that and sort of got stomped on it. It didn't work out nearly as well. And then we ran a mirror versus the Houston Outlaws and they just beat us. Came to the point that we weren't even counter diving and we tried to play like Reaper May. So I was happy that we finally ran it. And I kind of wish we ran it sooner, but I don't mind basing the Rhine either. But the LA Valiant game disappointed me because I think it was a winnable game. I think it was a game we should have won, especially given like the rosters and like former players and whatnot.
It was definitely a winnable game. That's for sure.
Yeah. So
there's a different.
Continue. Sorry.
So no, I wanted to say with that being said, back to this matchup between us two this coming Friday. If there's any way Vancouver's going to win, what's one key? What do they need to do?
Does Toronto lose factor into this?
Absolutely. Toronto losing factor. Buddy, the Houston Outlaws have won like I think 3 games all year and we're 2 of them.
So like and this is not me trying to go and take a shot at the Defiant. the Vancouver Titans, I think Avast actually was the one who shared his power rankings today.
Yeah, he did.
And it has 19 teams with a different tier, and then the Vancouver Titans.
Yeah.
And that is somewhat memeable. I mean, I know why that's being suggested. The difficulty is that the roster that the Vancouver Titans have would probably see that and take that to heart. Like, that's the thing that's actually been a biggest struggle for me, is now that these players are actually more active within Titans Discord and on social. It's like seeing them actually, like, they're feeling a need to apologize for losing. It's like, don't worry about it, man. Just
play the best.
Focus on what you need to get better.
Some good players,
but they're in a tough spot. Like, they're lacking confidence. We talked about this on our live stream yesterday, how Team RSP should take one for the greater good and match up against them so they can just outright pub stomp
the longest yard. That's what we're saying. The longest yard.
They
play the inmates first, right? That's what it is.
Just to feel like what it's like to win and sort of exert that authority so that you can get that edge back. Because, like, they had some confidence going against the Justice. They didn't win, but they had confidence. That's what I would love to see, because I'm going to quote Major League here, the movie Major League, where Lou Brown, who's the coach of this awful Cleveland Indians baseball team, starts talking about the concept of a winning streak is. You win one game, that's just one, but you win two, that's something. But if you win three, I call that a streak. Well, that's based on the premise of confidence. So back to what the Vancouver Titans need. They need the confidence. I think as well, they are so far the underdog that if they take a map early on the Defiant, I actually wonder how the Defiant respond to that. That's
a good thing.
Could that be the reversal of that sort of like, oh my goodness, this is happening? And again, I don't envision that happening, but I think if there is a key, that would have to be it. It's getting onto the Defiant early, being aggressive, and even if the Titans were to lose that first control map, then making it so close of a fight that the second one, if it were to go the Titans' way, again, there's the power there. But if the Defiant win the first two, there's no way the Titans are going to reverse sweep.
Yeah, this is a reverse sweep is not going to happen. It's interesting because being a Defiant fan for so long, like, I think it best encapsulated when I tweeted out you guys that no franchise is really better at giving their fans hope and then throwing it away than the Toronto Defiant, right? I tweeted that right before Moth 3 booped us on Kings Row versus the San Francisco Shock. Being a Defiant fan since season 2, right? Like, we've been through the highs and lows, and I mean, I'll always support the Toronto Defiant. I know we knock at them sometimes in the show. Always a diehard Defiant fan, and I mean, for the most part, honestly, I still support the Vancouver Titans. I still respect the Canadian franchises, and I really wanted them to beat the Justice. It was unfortunate that it happened. This is not going to be one of the games where I support the Titans, though. For the most part,
okay.
I will.
I totally understand why you wouldn't.
It's one of those things where I honestly do think that there is a possibility that the Defiant lose this. I would heavily favor us, but I also heavily favored us versus the Houston Outlaws this year twice, and we lost. I do think Cruz actually really helps with that mental and that, like, leadership ability for the Toronto Defiant, where maybe if we do start getting snowballed, he is one of those figures who probably could bring us back. It might have been something we were lacking previously, so I'm happy with that pickup. But I think the really interesting thing is going to be the ability to read the meta. There's no hero pools in this upcoming tournament, and that really is something that we haven't seen since earlier on in the year. That puts a lot of pressure on the coaching staff. And one of my complaints with the Toronto Defiant throughout the year has been there's been some times where I think the meta was very clearly one thing and the Defiant decided to run another. And we even talked about this like earlier in the show where why didn't the Defiant mirror the dive, right? Like, this is like not only we had seen a lot of teams run Echo Dive. This wasn't new to anyone. If you'd watched the previous games on Saturday, you would have seen it. Dive, in theory, suits our team very well, and yet we decided to run Ryan Sigma. So I think it's really important for the Defiant to come out there and get that good read on the meta, because I think if Vancouver does it and the Defiant don't, that's when things are going to get really interesting. With that being said, I'm still taking the Toronto Defiant. I think that the record is a little bit worse than they've shown. Like, as much as we knock at them, they brought the LA Valiant to 5 games. The Valiant reverse sweep the Atlanta Reign, right? Like I know, I used to call it MMA math, right? That's the typical term where it comes from. Like just because one team beats them and you beat them doesn't mean you're gonna beat them. We also lost the Gladiators, who lost to Boston. The point I'm just trying to make was we brought the Shock pretty close. We brought the Gladiators pretty close. We brought the LA Valiant pretty close.
Yeah.
We brought Philly to 5 games. Like I think this is a team that is not as bad as they seem, and I think the addition of Cruz is really going to help that. So I think they're going to win. I think the keys to the success are just going to be like really shutting down and Dalton and getting that meta sort of on point. But I do agree that the snowball potential to mentally boom Defiant is there, and it's going to be interesting to watch. So hopefully we come out strong.
Yeah. Yeah. With that being said, like I definitely think that Toronto Defiant are going to win too. But Chris, on another note, who do you think is going to win in general for this main madness? Like who's up?
Yeah,
for the
because
prize?
I was just going to say. So for those of you who don't know, there's a Miami League tournament going on right now, and the reason we did this show is the Battle of Canada, because the Defiant are playing the Vancouver Titans for the 13th and 12th position. Winner of that gets an opportunity to be in the tournament on Saturday. So the brackets and stuff is all available in the Overwatch League. And I thought we'd just have a little fun, just sort of give our general predictions on how we think that thing's going to go.
Yeah, so, well, first and foremost, regardless of whether Vancouver or Toronto win, I think it's the 8th spot gets to choose first.
Fifth.
Then 9. No, because that's the thing is the team that wins is getting into the ladder on Friday.
Yeah, I know, but the ladder on Friday is the top 4 get a bye, and then 5 gets to pick who they want to play for, because the highest seed gets the advantage, right? So the 5th place team gets to pick.
But wasn't 5 and 6 essentially 5? Like I mean I don't have it up because it was a really weird, convoluted. Yeah, your first 4 bye to Saturday.
Yeah.
Then that leaves that leaves you what, essentially 6 teams.
It's 5 to 12. 5, 6.
And what I thought was there were going to be essentially 2 matches. Those 4 teams play, and then the 5 and 6 team get to now choose who gets to play, and then the last 2, like, again, regardless.
So I can explain. The way it is and I might have misinterpreted this, but I'm pretty sure this is the way it is. So Vancouver Titans and the Toronto Defiant play for the 12 slot. And then on Friday, it's 5 to 12. So first, 5 picks who they want to play in that first round.
Yeah.
So they could pick 6, but they're probably not.
No. They don't. I think they have to pick 9 to 12.
9 to 12. So 5 picks 9 to 12. 6 then gets a choice of the remaining 9 to 12. Then 7 gets 9 to 12, and then 8 gets whoever's left over.
That makes better sense then. Yeah. But, I mean, regardless though, Vancouver Toronto is not gonna. I don't see whoever comes out of that first match having much hope in the second, and that's just because how do you prepare?
Yeah. Actually, that's a really good example. It's a really good point. How do you prepare for both teams?
Yeah, I mean. In my mind, you cannot, like, if the Defiant are already looking beyond Vancouver, that would be a disservice to them.
I agree.
And that's not me suggesting that there isn't this confidence that they should have, but like, I am a firm believer you never look ahead than the team and you're going to face next 100%. In any situation. So yeah, like how are you going to truly prepare to whomever gets to choose you? You don't even know, like, oh, if we win, we're playing this team.
But it's not. Like, I wouldn't even just look at it from that perspective. But if you're the 5th seed team, and I mean this again, no disrespect to the Vancouver Titans, because hey, it is what it is. But if you're the Paris Eternal, if the Vancouver Titans win, you probably pick Vancouver. If the Toronto Defiant win, do you not maybe pick Boston instead? Or the Washington Justice without Corey, right? That's what I'm saying. Like, it's not even all of a sudden. You can't even just prepare for Toronto because you might play Boston. You might play Washington. What if you're preparing for Washington and then Atlanta goes, well, we just 3-0'd, Houston, let's say. I don't think that's actually happened, but maybe we'll pick Houston. And all of a sudden, you're the Gladiators. You're like, wait a minute. We were preparing for Houston, and now we can pick the Justice? Like, do we pick them too? I thought it was really weird that they did it that way.
It is different. I mean, if there's one thing the Overwatch League likes to do is do things differently. Go off the board. Right. So who do I see winning? I think the safe pick is the Fusion, but that Twilight pickup in San Francisco. I'm sorry, but San Francisco is not the same team without Sinatra in the lineup, especially where no hero pools are in play. But now that you have Moth and Twilight are scary, and I'm not trying to discount Violet here, but I'm pretty sure if Twilight plays, Violet's the one who comes out.
Oh, 100%. Oh, no doubt. Unless you're running like an on a Zen situation for whatever reason. Maybe one of them plays Baptiste for Bap Zen.
You got
possibly.
You got Smurf and Choi up front. It's super. I mean, like the
Choi's so good.
Like the San Francisco Shock have so many options available to them.
Yeah.
That like the fact that there's no hero pool means they get to choose what they want to do, and whomever plays them either makes the choice of, okay, we'll try to run and play their game, or we're so confident in our game we don't care. And I don't even know if the Fusion would be that confident to not care what San Francisco chooses to play. And I view it as that's to me it's a 2-horse race. Like, I don't see a situation where either like where one or the other is not in the final.
See, it's funny because it's just funny that you said San Francisco or Fusion's the safe fit, because I actually thought the Shock were the safe bet. Like, I thought when I asked this, I was expecting both of you to take the Shock, and I was kind of going to be a little bit spicy and say the Philadelphia Fusion, because Philadelphia Fusion have went 5 maps versus the Toronto Defiant. They went 5 maps versus the Paris Eternal twice. They've looked, I believe the Atlanta Reign was a pretty close game, whereas the Shock has looked rough in some instances, but they've always really been able to 3-1 to 3-0 teams, especially after dominating the Atlanta Reign in the previous weekend 3-0. And they got Twilight, right? Like, this is the team that was already dominant. And then I don't want to say a weakness, because you're right. And the Zenyatta meta, especially, Violet's one of the best. But, I mean, Krusty, like, a lot of people have been very public about the fact that Violet's Ana is not up to snuff. It's one of the reasons why they used to run Architect earlier on in the year. And they were very honest about Architect or Violet not having a great Ana, and we all know Twilight's Ana is fantastic. So I sort of thought that the Shock were going to be the safe pick, and that Philadelphia would be my spicy take as to, like, I had this team super high earlier on in the year. I think they're the most stacked roster on paper, even in relation to the San Francisco Shock, especially without Sinatra. I love that team. So I was going to pick them, although I do agree it's a 2-person race. Sorry, Chris, you can say yours.
I'll buy Shock Stonks too. I think you pretty much said all that needs to be said about that. I think that Shock won because of those reasons too. I would really, this is just random other thought, but I really want the Atlantic and Pacific divisions to play each other.
Well, I think is that not what it is? Is it not the 2 winners play? Like, I thought I was going to say, what are your things in the Pacific division? Now, this might have been. Sorry. I would love to see. The Asia. No, I know you meant. I know you meant Asia. I thought the 2 winners played. Like, I thought the winner of the Asia region tournament played the winner, but maybe I'm mistaken. They don't. Okay, I'm wrong.
No, they don't. No, they don't. And I wish they did, because I think Shanghai would slap. I really think they win. Like,
I rate Philly pretty highly. I rate the Shock pretty highly. I don't even know if Shanghai is going to beat Seoul. I'll be completely honest. You give Seoul the ability to run double shield. You give Seoul the ability to run May, McCree, double shield, and I don't know, man.
Remember, wasn't it like 2 or 3 weeks ago that we were talking, and you're like, I don't know why everybody rates Seoul so highly.
Yeah,
and then Shanghai
you're right.
absolutely destroyed Seoul, and then
hold up.
Guangzhou destroyed Seoul or something.
So I was very critical of Seoul Dynasty earlier on in the year because I thought they were essentially London Light. People were like, it was London Light, but you didn't have Fury. It was London Light, but instead of Fury, you had Michelle, which was always my biggest criticism. Then they added Slime. This is no longer London Light. This is London Light with one of the, if not the best main support in the entire league. And also, since then, they beat Shanghai Dragons in a double shield meta because they can't run the rush comp and they're not great at the poke comp. But the double shield comp, they slapped the Gladiators, they slapped the Valiant, I believe, and then they actually beat Shanghai Dragons. They're like Shanghai's only loss other than Chengdu the first game of the season or something like that.
But, I mean, I'll counter that. Yes, they beat the Dragons in 5. And they have been
it's going to be close. It's going to be absolutely
every
close.
match around it. Like, I agree that maybe the fact that the hero pool that no longer applies plays into the Dynasty's hands. But Shanghai they're a hot roster.
Well,
right
any time the Seoul has been able to play the double shield, they've slapped. Like, I don't think they've lost a map on double shield other than Shanghai that went to 5 and they beat them. And on top of that, they've added Slime. Now, double shield might not be meta. That might be the issue. It might be Ryan Diva, May McCree, and that might be the definitive meta because of the fact that, yes, they run double shield, but it's just not good enough. Might be their downfall. I'm just saying there's enough there's enough doubt in my mind to at least not just crown Shanghai. I also wouldn't sleep on the Guangzhou charge, especially if Nero can figure out his sort of situation with the visa.
Yeah, I don't see it. I just Shanghai is
such a good team.
I mean, they are top tier in the league, and okay, I'll give the dynasty credit. They've picked up Slime, and if we consider the teams that have former Titans on their roster, there's one big difference. Slime is in Korea and playing for a team based there, so there is that capability. Now, I'm going to presume Twilight is not going. If he plays, he's going to play on ping.
Yep.
So that adds an idiosyncrasy to his Ana play that he'd have to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that there was no trade means there was no transference of a visa that he may or may not have had. Like,
yep.
I mean, there's a number of things that might, that maybe we should discount there. The fact that the Washington Justice have Stitch and Janu on a 2-week contract playing on ping, neither one looked particularly well with the Justice. Not to suggest they're not good players, but I guess I can give credit to Seoul because of the fact that Slime's present, but I still feel Shanghai takes that.
For me, it's just if I give you the roster of Gesture Marvel, because I assume they're running double shield, Gesture Marvel, Fitz Profit, and then Bedouin Slime. Like Vancouver, like Shanghai's got a hot roster. There's no doubt in my mind Shanghai would slap every other team in North America East. You can maybe argue Shock, you can maybe argue Fusion. That's about it. There's no doubt in my mind. But that's a good starting 6. That's a really good starting 6.
Yeah, I mean, regardless, this seems like this is more of the hot take than the actual Toronto Vancouver.
No, my actual hot take, and sorry, my very final point, Chris. Sorry, my very final point before I want to go is just because I know we're running out of time here. Because Lyteforce did say what I think a lot of people are thinking, that's who cares who wins the 12 or 13 seat? It's not going to matter, right? They're going to get knocked out in the next round. But I will preface this by giving the Defiant a little bit of love, because I actually think there's a potential that the Defiant have a Cinderella story miracle run and go a lot further than people think, because of the fact that the 5th team gets to pick. So if the Toronto Defiant beat the Boston or the Vancouver Titans, that means the 5th seed team gets to pick. Now, chances are the Paris Eternal are probably going to pick the Boston Uprising, right? That would be my first assumption, is that you'd pick the Boston Uprising. You can handle the Defiant all you want. They beat the Boston Uprising twice. They're a better team than the Boston Uprising. You then get the Atlanta Reign, who get to pick next, and I would assume they're picking the coreless Washington Justice. You can again say whatever you'd want about the Toronto Defiant. I pick them over Washington Justice with no Corey, especially since we've already beaten the Washington Justice. And that leaves the LA Gladiators, who either pick Houston or Toronto. You can argue both. But the LA Gladiators just lost to Boston. I think there's and yes, the Defiant did lose to the Gladiators the week before, but they were playing Roki. Big difference between playing Roki, who's never played in the Overwatch League in over a year, coming from contenders, not really having a lot of scrim time, to all of a sudden you finally have your main support and Cruz. I think there's a possibility that the Toronto Defiant can beat the LA Gladiators, and if they actually do beat the LA Gladiators, they then play the Florida Mayhem, and I think that's also a winnable game. Like, I could go as far as to say that this could be, for all you Defiant fans out there, there's a small percentage of chance that this is a saving grace where the Defiant can go a little bit further than a lot of people think.
Okay, I will concede of the 2 teams that were to get out of that 12-13, the Defiant have the better chance of winning
a next match.
But the fact that they'll play again the same day, there's
the odds are not in our favor. I'll be completely honest.
The only competitive comparison I can provide is in the world of traditional sports. And, you think about it. Anytime you play in like a tournament where you have to go and start stringing wins together over and over and over, it takes a lot out of you.
Yeah,
it really does.
Yeah.
Yeah, I concur. And it's funny because where we're those typical people. We'll watch a Defiant game, watch them lose, be really pissed for a day or two. Then we back on the Defiant stocks like a day or two later. We're like, okay, they could be these teams.
That's the definition of me. I'm watching the game, and I'm like, when we were down 2-0, I was like, I'm writing a rant. I'm going to film it. It's going to be 10 minutes long. I'm bringing up this point and this point and this point. This is embarrassing. And then we win the next 2 maps, and I'm like, the Defiant are going to beat the Gladiators. We're going to beat the Florida Mayhem. We're going to upset Philly like we did. So, no, I know. I get that. It's funny. But anyway, it's a tough sell. It's a tough sell. I think it's going to be a good game. I think the Defiant versus Vancouver is going to be fun for a lot of Canadian fans out there. Any Overwatch fan who's Canadian, I think, should tune in and check it out.
Lots of Canadian kids playing.
Yeah, we could have as many as 4, really, realistically going on. I don't know if Sure 4 is going to play. We haven't seen him in a bit. Not entirely sure what's going on with that, but you never know.
He got in on, was it Saturday he was in for... I don't know, 2 weeks ago. He was
2 weeks ago, but he wasn't supposed to be. He literally tweeted, he beat the shock, and he tweeted, I wasn't even supposed to play.
Well, no, I saw that. But I'd just like to point out that he comes out, and suddenly the shock are able to turn the table. So
no, I know. Hey, if you're talking about Logix and Sure 4 playing,
was just going off.
Yeah, we were number 1 or like play Logix and Sure 4. Play Logix and Sure 4. Agility is not great on the May. Doomfist, he's fantastic. Pharah, I like it. His Echo's improving. He's not the best man in the league. We've wanted Sure 4 and Logix in the lineup for a long time. We got it twice. We slapped Paris and we beat the shock with it. So we'll see if we see it again, although who knows. There might be more behind the scenes why he's not playing. You never know. But with that out of the way, I mean, anything else that you want to say?
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming on. It's always a blast talking to you guys. We love the whole like Canadian Overwatch, and I mean, I wish the rivalry was a little bit under different circumstances. That this was a battle for the top 4 and not 12th and 13th out of 13. But it is what it is. Chris, it's always a pleasure having you on. Any final words that you want to say, represent yourself, or anything you want to shout out before we sort of end this one?
Head off.
Yeah, no, for anyone who might be curious about the Vancouver Titans scene, please give us a look. Readysetpwn.com, @Readysetpwn on Twitter. Podcast we publish each and every week, and we've actually now started streaming live.
I've noticed that. Congrats, by the way.
Thank you. We're streaming. Our episodes get recorded Tuesday evenings, which for those of you who might be out east, probably pretty late. And then we've started doing post-match reviews. So after essentially 6 p.m. Pacific the night the Vancouver Titans play, we'll do a quick stream. Very casual conversational stuff, but the idea is just to really create content that we feel, quite frankly, the Vancouver Titans organization doesn't seem to want to do. So
I love
community is most important for us. So what we can do to move it forward. I gotta get a shout out to Alpha Flight, who beat the living daylights out of Team RSP in a show match.
Yeah, Richard and them came on. Richard played. You faced Richard in main tank, right? That was what it went down. Yeah.
Yeah. So Richard reached out and said, "Hey, you want to make this happen?" Because he's had to move, and I'm like, "Yeah, sure, let's do this." I mean, we Titans fans, we needed something to have fun out with, and I remember like Team RSP was like me posting in Discord, "Hey, is there people that want to play? We're going to play on," I think it was like Thursday or whatever.
Yeah,
I recruited from Discord based on who you said yes first. Like there were no tryouts. We did not play together. Or anything like
we
that.
had Alpha Flight has a whole like home front series that we did with the charity team. Exactly, they have like some really good players.
Yeah, so one of the guys on our team, Siren Song, he's part of our community. That he's like, yeah, let's go see who these guys are and look at the profile. It's like, dude, one of these guys like GM.
Yeah. No, we did the whole preview show for their Homefront series. So for those of you who don't know, the Homefront is like a charity where a lot of the the fan clubs play. So it was the Vanguards from Houston, oh my god, I forget the name from Atlanta, Chris.
Five Deadly Venoms
from New York. Yeah, sorry, what were you saying? What was the Atlanta one?
Royal Family.
The Atlanta Royal Family, 5 Deadly Venoms from New York, and then the Alpha Flight. They had this like little tournament where they played for the charities, and it was a big success. And I mean, it was always a great time covering that. So when I saw you guys go up against them, I was like, man, I hope you guys came prepared, because Alpha Flight actually won that tournament. Now, mind you, Richard wasn't the main tank, so there's a bit of a difference there. As much as I love Richard, he's a great guy. I'm not sure how his Ryan skill. He's a Brig main, so he's not even a Ryan main.
Well, he kept saying he was playing he Brig, so as a
exactly.
Ryan main, that hurts, because shouldn't it be she Ryan? Like,
yeah, exactly. I was gonna say you're the Ryan main, so I was wondering how that Ryan v Ryan matchup went.
Shrine.
Yeah, we knew going into it was going to be a tough fight. When Richard and I were coordinating, I was like, I kept like, dude, you do realize like I've gone and recruited the team from like essentially chronological order as to who said who wants to play what.
Yeah.
We decided what roles everyone was going to play essentially that morning in preparation for the actual stream, which we had Elo Esports actually produce and whatnot for us. So
yeah,
like,
that was awesome.
Sweet.
Showcase event, but yeah,
super great.
It was good fun. I mean, that's what it was. I think moving forward, if Team RSP actually becomes Team RSP and is truly wanting to represent the Vancouver Titans community, we'll probably go and put more structure around it than a few days of chronological who wants in.
Yeah, hey, if that ever happens, you guys let us know. I mean, I'm always down to create content for that. And that was a really great event that you guys put on earlier. So
yeah.
I love the whole fan club, the Battle of the North, Toronto Defiant versus the Vancouver Titans. At the very least, this is probably a more competitive version than what we would have gotten had Fisher and Hoxell and all of them been on the team. So it made this a little bit more fun. Again, wish it was under a little bit better circumstances, but it is what it is. There's always next year. So thank you so much, Chris. We'll put all that in the link in the description below for anyone who's interested in checking that stuff out. Please give these guys some love. They're great friends of the show. And without further ado, I'm good. Chris, anything else?
No.
All right, awesome. I'll see you guys next time. Enjoy.